The Bible is arguably the most enigmatic book of all time. Its depth and richness of narrative, songs, poetry, law, prophecy, and eschatology is unrivaled in its class. This text confounded many for centuries. Attributed to the divine inspiration of the Most High Yah, only a select few were privileged to be able to unravel the mysteries that lie beneath. Today, there are tons of academic gatekeepers who have been able to unlock this coded script using a variety of techniques mostly unknown to laymen. However, today this is no longer the case. Thankfully, Divine Prospect has spent 15 years playing the spook who sat by the door to gather intel on how to best approach the text and get the most objective understanding possible. He is making these techniques available to the general public in the upcoming KHM Holistic Research Paradigm for Bible study classes. For the first time, be able to read the text the way it was intended by the author to his immediate audience. Once you've been able to successfully decipher the scripture, you will then learn how to map it to modern times and yield a harvest of actual results. Sign up today by going to www.patreon.com/Divine Prospect and join the $50 tier to reserve your spot. Seats are extremely limited, so take advantage of this opportunity before it's too late. Peace and shalom.
All right. Peace and shalom, family. It's your brother, Divine Prospect of Kingdom Harbinger Ministries, back in the building. What's going on, family? What's going on? I'm excited that we are at the end of the week and I get to enjoy my Shabbat. All praises to the Most High. Yeah. And what more better way to start off the Shabbat than spending time with y'all? I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. And it's an honor to be here and spend time with y'all's people. All right. So a couple of housekeeping items, as you know, as we do whenever we start the show. And then from there, we get into the meat and potatoes, which is the Q&A and or a lesson. It all depends on how the Ruach flows. We'll see where everything lands as we proceed. Shout out to our TikTok family in the building. What's going on? My YouTube family in the building. And all those watching us on replay, shalom to you. You thought you may have missed it live, but you're getting it right in direct right now. All praises to the Most High. Yeah. All right. To begin things off with the housekeeping, first and foremost, you see on the screen, Kingdom Harbinger Ministries presents. Join us for our 2026 Passover Memorial, April 15th, 2026, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The address is right there. But if you are coming to the Passover, we have to RSVP you. So email us at kingdomharbinger@gmail.com so we can lock your seat in and keep that seat warm for you. All right? Okay. All right. All praises. Now, you can fly in town and come by. You can be local to Atlanta, right? Or the outskirts of Atlanta, or the surrounding areas. That's fine. However you want to get here. If you want to get here, you want to spend Passover with us because you see nobody else is keeping the ancient pre-exilic Israelite menological sacerdotal model, then we got you. If you don't know what that is, got to go back on the channel, take a look at all the videos we did on the calendar, the calendrical models, and you'll see why we keep it at this time of the year. So all praises to the Most High Yah. All right. Again, we are getting started. All right. So I want to start off with that. Remind y'all about Passover. Again, email us at kingdomharbinger@gmail.com if you want to join us for this Passover memorial. Okay. All right. And let's transition from that. All right. Get the camera back on me. All right. All right, so that's the first and foremost. Second thing is, let's get into this KHM membership. I was going to mention this on the show. So if you want to sign up and join us at Kingdom Harbinger Ministries, click the link in the description below. On TikTok, email us at kingdomharbinger@gmail.com if you want to sign up for Kingdom Harbinger Ministries. What is Kingdom Harbinger Ministries? Okay, well, Kingdom Harbinger Ministries next month will be 12-year anniversary of Kingdom Harbinger Ministries, because I actually started it in March and I did the first lesson on it in 2014, April, forgot the date, but I think it was right before Easter, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's April 6th, something like that. But it's been 12 years since we started Kingdom Harbinger Ministries. I would have never foreseen that it would have been this grandiose and this integral into the lives of people, and this impactful for those who apply the principles shared on here and the community that we built around Kingdom Harbinger Ministries. The kingdom we're referring to is Yah's kingdom. A harbinger is a herald that goes before the king, announces their arrival, and makes preparations for their arrival, and prepares the people to welcome and receive said king, kingdom, people, etc. All right, army, etc. All right. So what we're here to do is prepare Yah's people to receive him. We realize that Yah's people don't have the proper kingdom etiquette in order to acknowledge when the time is near of his arrival and how to prepare for his coming before he arrives. There is going to be some things that are happening. This world, as we can see right now, is being judged for its wickedness. These nations and their confederacy against the children of Israel and against what's right and righteous before the Most High's eyes. It's only but so much that can be done before it fills up and overflows from the brim, and that will invoke his righteous judgment. Right now, we ought to have righteous indignation for the wickedness that we perceive. We are here to protect the eye gates, the ear gates, the mind gates of ourselves and our children. We ought to rear them up on the Torah, as the scripture says in Devarim, Deuteronomy chapter 6. And then we're also to introduce them to Yeshua Bar Yosef, which is the Son of the Most High, and the way he walked while in captivity, and how he magnified the law and made it right in the eyes of the Most High Yah. Right. And what he gave as his martyrdom on behalf of Israel to bring us closer to the Father and back into the covenant with Yah. And then now we are his people. We are his children. We're no longer bastard children. We have been adopted back into the family of Yah. We were wayward previously, and so are our ancestors, even though they were ethnically Israelites and other. But now we are back on track. Back on track. All right, so that's what Kingdom Harbinger Ministry is about. We see the way to prepare the people is through products, goods, services, and programs. The goal is to alleviate all the societal ills that our people experience within their communities, so they have a clearer path to Yah, and we can eliminate the white noise so they can lock into that frequency of Yah. And then by doing so, we're able to generate culture by restoring it from its roots. And what grows from out of culture is a community. And out of that community, in order for that community to be functional and effective, it must be autonomous or self-governing. These are the principles of things that we do at Kingdom Harbinger Ministries. And this is what we want to share with you. Now, like we've been saying, like a broken record, I'm going to keep saying it. We're going to push the covenant social reconstruction model as one of the tools that we use in order to reconstruct our communities based on the principles of culture, community, autonomy, and being able to terraform our neighborhoods and our cities and our towns into mini Goshens and refuge cities so that our people can get all the things that they need when things hit the fan. Because when society crumbles, we got to rely on each other, and we have to have a system in place that we can apply that can continue to sustain us until Yah comes to redeem us. All right. So the question is, how does CSRM work? How does the CSRM work? Covenant Social Reconstruction Model. So I gave you the mission of what that is and how KHM and why KHM is pushing it. But what is it, right? How does it work? Okay. I'm going to give you a simple step-by-step breakdown. All right. So I wrote some notes down. Number one, gather the people. This is why this YouTube exists. It's to gather the people. And then when we have those physical meetups and sessions and so forth, now we're physically entangling the people, right? We're physically introducing different parts of the body until we got the Voltron all set up, all right? Or the Megazord all set up, right? So gather the people, bring together committed residents, leaders, families, educators, legal minds, and builders who want more than talk. They want structure. All right. 2, establish a covenant framework. Create a local charter that defines shared values, goals, accountability, and how the community will govern itself. All right. So we talk about these Torah principles and things that worked in the past and things that didn't work and different perspectives and vantage points. We think tank it. All right. That's what we do. Bring it to the think tank table. Number 3, secure land and space. Identify land, buildings, or shared spaces that can be placed under community stewardship through trusts, cooperatives, or long-term planning. So once we secure these spaces, this land, this place, where now the things that we're speaking about can be actualized, that would be the next step. 4, Build core institutions. KHM is building core institutions. We got an educational branch. We got a homeschooling branch. Then we have other things as well, like midwifery and doula. We have services that we provide, like health, naturopathic health services, credit repair, and financial planning, and the like. Several other programs, transportation, logistic programs, and so forth. So we're building these institutions so that way, when the community is physically built, these things will be in place. So as someone has issues coming in, we can filter those issues that they have in the secular realm. And as they come into this covenant and we come into the space, now we devote it to Yah and the sustaining of our people, the protection, provision, and the presence of Yah with the provision and protection, so that the people have an enclave, have a black site, right, in which they can get security, they can get safety, they can get provisions and protection, so we can work together autonomously through a self-governing covenant that we make amongst each other while this nation is being judged. Because like we see in the first Exodus, Israel didn't leave after the first plague. They stayed until 12 plagues. And then the 12th plague, they had to make preparations before they left out, right? For us, this has been extended out in a longer time frame than what we see in the book of Exodus, right? However, the Most High did not take them out. This is like when I tell Christians who believe in the rapture, you're not leaving. Yeshua, or Jesus, prayed in John chapter 17. He says, I don't pray for you to take them out of the world. So y'all want to get going when the going gets tough. That is not how you're validated as a believer. You got to test the metal. You got to be forged through the tribulation fire. And a lot of y'all don't want to do that, because Christianity, or the form of Christianity that you hold to, has softened you, has weakened you, has made you scared. You're saying you can do all things through Christ, but when the pressure gets turned up, you don't want to be here and show that you can do all things through Christ. When we read the book of Revelation, we see that the martyrs who kept the commandments of God and the testimony of Yeshua, they were beheaded, they were killed. And they're the ones that were crying out from under the throne in Shemayim for justice, for retribution. But y'all don't want to be those martyrs. Y'all too weak, too frail, too soft. But some of y'all may have some legit concerns: health, medical reasons, children, and other things. That's why we have to create these enclaves. This is why the CSRM is here. So for those of us who are weak in those areas, we only as strong as our weakest link. We have these systems in place based on this framework to filter those weaknesses and strengthen you in those areas. So build those core institutions. Why? Well, the benefit is it turns vision into infrastructure people can actually use and trust. So let me go back to the first one. Gather the people. Benefit creates unity, shared direction, and real community ownership from the start. 2, establish a covenant framework. Benefit gives the community a working blueprint instead of a scattered effort. 3, secure land and space. The benefit builds stability, protects against displacement, and creates a foundation for generational wealth. And that was the issue: displacement. The diaspora was scattered. But if we're all together, you'll see we start to agree on more than we disagree. Because at that point, it's Jacob's trouble. The pressure is on, and we're going to have to rely on one another and the good reports of one another in order to survive. 5, develop an internal economy. Create cooperative businesses, ethical labor systems, saving structure, and local investment models so resources circulate inside the community. What is the benefit? Reduces dependency from the outside, creates jobs, and strengthens long-term economic power. 6, prioritize health, rest, and family stability. Implement systems that protect people from burnout, overwork, food insecurity, and crisis-driven living. What's the benefit? Produces healthier homes, clearer thinking, and stronger communities. 7, train the next generation. Teach youth and adults how the system works. So law, land, economics, leadership, and community responsibility. What's the benefit? Ensures the model does not die with one generation or one leader. This is not a one-man show. I'm part of the collective. I'm part of the cooperative. My job is to put it out there, and y'all are to execute it. And this is an autonomous thing. So if you have the blueprint and the way that I may personally apply it may be different than yours, it's fine. As long as you follow the principles and as long as we can see the efficacy of the efforts that you put forth, then we can go with that. This is why it's going to be in different areas. The same way our chapters work, they're autonomously driven. Yes, I make executive decisions, of course. Yes, I'm still the overseer, but I allow those places to run on their own, right? They can pull on me as a resource, but only if they need me. Unless some kind of executive decision has to be made that affects the brand or whatever the case may be, then I'll get involved. Otherwise, it's hands off. Because if something happens to Divine, I already put this out there. You already know what to do. So no one person can do this. Change can start with one person, but in order to sustain it, you need multiple people involved. Okay. So 8, measure progress year over year. This is why the CSRM is so unique. We have a rubric to measure success year over year. Track outcomes in housing, justice, employment, education, health, and participation so the community can see what is working and fix what is not. Benefits creates transparency, accountability, and proof of real impact. That's important. 9, strengthen, expand, and replicate. Once the model is working in one place, help other neighborhoods and cities build their own CSRM structures. Benefit turns one success story into a movement. That's the goal. The big result, the CSRM helps communities move from survival to structure, from dependency to dignity, and from hope alone to measurable autonomy. This is how we set up and start our Goshens and refuge cities. If you're interested in reading more of this blueprint, go over to our Patreon, www.patreon.com/divine prospect. For YouTube, you can see it in the description below. For TikTok, you can see it in my profile. Go on there and type in CSRM, and you'll see the paper there, and you can start reading the research paper. That is actually a 180-something page blueprint with volumes 1, 2, and 3, I think it's over 200, right? But the research paper, the skeletal framework is there for you to read to see what it is that I'm talking about. And as we meet on these things, everybody will be given, who is part of KHM, will be given the blueprint, a couple hundred, almost 200 pages, and to memorize it, to read it, to ask questions about it, to inquire about it, have think tank sessions about it, assess your community, your neighborhood, your town, your city, and say, okay, how can this part be implemented? How can this part be implemented? Who do we need to speak to? Where do we need to go? What space can we get? What land can we own? All these things are important. And then we have the contingencies in place in the event that there's any kind of stoppage or roadblocks with any part of this. And then 3, we have the transparency and accountability element, which is based on everything that we're doing. There's going to be a public facing rubric to measure the success or failure of what we're doing. So it can be replicated and examined and investigated for anything that causes it to fall short, if it's unsuccessful or if it fails in whatever city or town is being implemented. And then once we get it to work, then we work with other neighbors in the cities, towns, etc., to get it to work in their places. Now, why is all this important? Well, this is important because I want y'all to follow me on TikTok. YouTube, follow me on TikTok. Let's look up Divine Prospect. Very simple. Follow me on TikTok. This is important because I had a conversation in my Biblical War Room session. So KHM has a TikTok Biblical War Room session. What is the Biblical War Room? The Biblical War Room is a strategic place, mental, spiritual, and intellectual, where scripture is examined with precision, tested through context, and engaged like a battlefield of ideas. It's where interpretations are challenged, doctrines are refined, and the truth is pursued through disciplined, evidence-based discussion rooted in the ancient world of the text. It is not about motion-driven debates, but structured confrontation with the text, bringing language, history, culture, and theology into alignment to uncover what the scriptures actually communicate. In the Biblical War Room, we don't just read the Bible, we interrogate it, defend it, and reconstruct it with clarity and authority. This is very important because I'm moving the majority of my open panel discussions over to TikTok. TikTok seems to be a better platform for that, right? Now, I will still do it here on YouTube, but maybe not as often. If you want that type of action, that's what that's for. So when I had that session this week, a Biblical War Room session this week, I was speaking to a brother who has something called the Afro Podcast, something like that, right? He was an Igbo brother. He says he's second generation, born here, but was brought back to Nigeria, was raised for a little bit, and then came back over here to America. But he's second generation. His parents was born in Nigeria. I was talking about the covenant social reconstruction model. I said we take Torah principles and we put them into a pragmatic model that is based off a paradigm that, when installed, can alleviate the societal ills of Black people in our communities. While I was saying this to him, he was like, no, that's not going to work. I said, what are you talking about? If you copy and paste the Torah and put it in Black communities, it's not going to work. I know, because it didn't work here in Africa, in Nigeria. I said, what are you talking about? Yeah, because that's tied to an ethnic identity that you're not. I said, how would you say that? Why would you say something like that? How do you know that? Where is this coming from? So we had a long, drawn-out conversation on that. And if you're interested in that discussion, it'll be up on Patreon this upcoming week, right? It's 4 unique sessions, 4 unique discussions from that TikTok session that I'm gonna cut up and put it on Patreon. If you're interested on TikTok to go see the replays, you can go to Patreon to see it. Same thing for YouTube, right? And sign up for the Patreon. Again, www.patreon.com/divine prospect. Sign up for the Patreon. It's the best way that you can support this channel, and also the way that you get an immediate return on your investment with the wealth of repository of information, tools, websites, you name it. We have it all on the Patreon waiting for you. Okay, we have almost 1,300 posts on there with all types of content, right? Tools, etc. Right? So nonetheless, so I was having this conversation with him, and him as an African brother was telling me as an African American that what I was offering was not going to work. And I said, brother, do you even know what the paradigm is? Do you even know how we're going to implement it? If your point of reference is Ashkenazi Jews and what they do or have done in Nigeria, then you have no clue what we're doing over here. You just simply have no clue. But off the rip, he told me that it was not going to work. That's what he said. That's what he said. Off the rip. So long story short, we went back and forth on this. And then I asked him, okay, so what solution do you have? And he said, well, we got to stop using religion. Oh, okay, good. I got you. Don't tell me what we have to stop doing. Tell me what we as African Americans should be doing. He had no solution. And that's typical for a lot of people that I talk to that challenge the paradigm that I put forth and said, this solves a problem. Let me show you how it solves the problem. We think tanked it for X amount of years, came up with this solution, looked at this, looked at that, and installed it in small stages and micro stages and have seen marginal success. You're telling me that that's not going to work. So what's your solution? He had no solution. I said, hey, look, the CSRM is one model. That's the major model that we use over here. However, I have another model called Globalizing Black Power. That's when African Americans over here works with West and Central Africans on the other side of the Atlantic. And we share resources, we create conferences, we set up an economic model, we tap into the AU, we'll do all these things. We take our IP over here in the West, right? And our ability to accumulate wealth, and we share that over there in West and Central Africa. And at the same time, we take the sovereignty of these African nations and use them to be our overseers. So while we're here, they have a vested interest in us here. So if anything happens to us based on American policy, laws, etc., they can look out for us to a certain extent, right? Because they also got strings on them too. But we can use and leverage that sovereign power in order for us to acclimate land and do land initiatives, etc. Kingdom of Yah is doing this right now over in Africa. The Mona is doing this right now over in Israel, right? So Kingdom of Yah is part of the Mona community, but they're in Kenya, they're in Ghana, they're in South Africa. And then we have other Israelite groups that are not connected with KOI that's also doing the same thing over there. And then we have 3 chapters of KHM over there working with these groups, doing some of that work. So we can see the model works there. Over here, we're working on it from the ground up. The difference is we don't have no sovereignty here. And when I say sovereignty, I'm not talking about the sovereignty movement. I'm not talking about that. When I say sovereignty, I mean we have ownership of land. We can't because of mineral rights, and we can't because it's federally owned, state owned. So that right has been taken away from us, even though our ancestors' blood has been shed over here, so that we earned it. We earned it through descendancy. So I said, maybe you like that. Oh yeah, I think that model will be better. Okay, but that is one tool that we use to connect with the other tools. It's a tool shed. You can't say something doesn't work if you don't even fully understand it. You didn't even hear me explicate it. I didn't elucidate on any points of the paradigm, but you're saying it's not going to work for Black people. So when I asked him what's the solution, he said he don't have one, but he says the way I presented it, he's interested in reading up on the covenant social reconstruction model. I said, cool. Then I said to him, I said, hey, look, if you want, you can have me on your podcast. You have a podcast? Yeah, I have a podcast. You can have me on your podcast and we can work together. You know, I can share some ideas with you. You can share something. He said, oh, no. This is only for Africans. This is only dealing with indigenous issues here in Nigeria, in Africa. Wait, so you want to speak from a high and mighty place and tell me that the solution I propose is not going to work? That's what you said. And then I said, what's your solution? You don't have none for me. You don't have none. On your podcast, you discuss it for your community in Africa. Cool. But you want to tell me that what I'm doing is not going to work when it was really designed for me and my people. But I said it's scalable and it can work even in West Central, South Africa, East Africa, where the diaspora is at. Right? That's what I said to him. But and I let you on my platform talk about it. I let you on my platform ridiculing me, putting me down, saying that's not going to work and blah, blah, blah. And I engaged with you to the point where he was like, you know what? You make some good points. I'm going to look into it. But the moment I said, hey, we can discuss this on your platform. No. You NIGG bleep, you stay over there. He didn't say that, but that was like, you know, how he was coming off. Like, nah. Yo, don't get into our issues. We can speak on your problems, but don't get involved in our issues. That right there lies the problem. And then the conversation ensued towards the end. And the brother Yazoo was on it, asked him about Kemet. And he said, yeah, Kemet is a Black civilization. It's an African civilization, all that. I said, hey, what if I gave the same paradigm, but I drew it from Kemetic principles? Would you be okay with that? He said, oh, yeah, definitely. I said, that tells me all I need to know. And that's the issue. When it comes to ADOS or FBA, we have everybody named Mama trying to tell us what we need to do to solve our problems. Everybody want to police what we say, how we want to do it, how we want to approach it. Won't let us do it for ourselves. But then we offer assistance to these other groups. We don't need you. No, we don't need you. Just you stay right there with that. We don't need you. Don't come over here with that. So that's what happens. So FBA ADOS is a way of identifying descendants of slaves or foundational Black Americans over here in the West. We identify them as a lost sheep. That's how we identify them, right? And that diaspora all across the world, the globe, right? But the issue is nobody wants us to help them. Everybody wants to help us. And this is what the CSRM reduces, handouts. Why? Because they know we always want a handout. But the moment I say we can do it ourselves, that's when everybody want to come in and say, yeah, we want to help. But we're not asking you for a handout. We really don't need your help. But I mean, if you want to offer it, that's fine. But know your role when it comes to what we're doing. Okay. That's a little about the CSRM. Just want to intrigue y'all about that a little bit. Right. So if you're interested in getting involved, sign up for Kingdom Harbinger Ministries. Again, on YouTube, click the link in the description below. On TikTok, email us at kingdomharbinger@gmail.com. All praises to the Most High. Yeah. All right. So, anybody watching this, YouTube, others, get on TikTok. I'm on there weekly doing my live sessions and then joining lives. I was on Clubhouse before, but Clubhouse to me didn't seem as viable as this. There's more people on TikTok than there is on Clubhouse. So I get to meet more of a variety of people. And Clubhouse has a greater way of promoting these sessions than Clubhouse does. Clubhouse don't really do a good job promoting. So I'm able to reach more people through TikTok than I was through Clubhouse, right? But over here, YouTube is the primary medium in which we speak about KHM stuff and divine prospect-based stuff and the community-based stuff is on here on the YouTube channel. So TikTok, sign up for YouTube. Subscribe to YouTube, Kingdom Harbinger Ministries. Type that into YouTube, click subscribe, hit that bell notification, and get locked in. All right. All right. All right, let's go. All right. So with that being said, I think I covered all bases, right? There also was a debate coming up that I was going to host on this platform, but there's still talks need to be had behind the scenes. Shout out to my brother Hakodesh Management in the building. Him proposed it over to me, and the chef proposed it over to me, Roe, the chef. And I considered it, and I said, yes, I'll do it. These are the stipulations. But the issue is we're still trying to figure out a definition for a particular word that's going to be in the phrase for the debate and the topic for the debate. So until we work that out, I'm not going to give any specifics, but I just want to let you know that there will be a preliminary discussion coming up soon if everything goes as planned, and there will be debate. So a lot of y'all really like the debate and conversation between Zion Lex and Gadal. People was asking for more of it, blah, blah, blah. And I said, cool, I can do more of it, but it has to be good conversations that I know that the discussions replete throughout our community. People are aware of it, and it's going to bring some edification and shed light, right? This particular debate, I think, is going to do the same thing, very similar, get people to really look and analyze things in a microscope when it comes to certain assertions and claims about said subject matter, and it's going to be done in a clean and formal way, right? So that everybody has a chance to present both sides that present their sides formally, and then engage each other and take questions, and then I'll give them another hour or so, like I did Zion and Gadon, just go in, but no explicit language, no cursing, no ad hominems, no disrespect. The moment that is, I cut it off, right? But I'm trying to restrain that behavior so people can clearly hear what the arguments are and be able to weigh in on their own. Make sure you present your case. The requirement is you must have a PowerPoint, right? You must provide your sources, right? You must articulate your argument in a place where it is informal so that people can get it at a layman level, but formal enough that it will appeal those who are in the higher learning fields and scholars and academics as well. You have to have a blend of both. And I think that's why a lot of people like this channel, because I can get really deep with stuff, and then I can be very surface and meet people where they at. So it's that variety that people appreciate, because the depth will keep them coming back, but the simplicity will hook them on at first. So you have to blend the two. All right. Kazachia, it's Divine Prospect. So TikTok is going to be Divine Prospect. Instagram is at Kingdom Moments. Twitter is Divine Prospect, or X is Divine Prospect. Facebook is Divine Prospect or Ron Shields, either or. So that's how you can follow me on TikTok. So yeah, Kazachia, go ahead and sign up for that TikTok and follow me on that TikTok. Go to the YouTube, Kingdom Harbinger Ministries, and lock in. All right. Okay. So I think that's good for our introduction. I do want to go over one item, and then I'm going to open it up for Q&A like we normally do. And again, this is primarily a YouTube Freestyle Friday. Sessions is a YouTube session, so I mainly cater to the YouTube audience when it comes to that. I may look over here secondarily or tertiary, but it's mainly geared towards YouTube. So at TikTok, if you want to go and ask your questions and have your questions better answered, you can do so by signing up and subscribing on the YouTube channel and ask your question, or on the Patreon. We do have a chat section. You can go on the Patreon after the cameras close and after the cameras go off, and you can finish asking questions, engaging in conversation, etc. All right. Okay. All right. So I got one more item to go to, and then I'm gonna go through the shout outs, and then we will get started with the Q&A. All right. So the first item is, I want to read this to you. All right. So this is from the BBC. I'm going to put this on the screen, and most of y'all have heard about this already, but some of y'all have not. But I'm going to go over this with y'all, okay? Let me share the screen. If you've been living under a rock, I'm going to go over this, right? All right. Let's zoom in. All right. This is as of 2 days ago, okay? And this is from BBC. The United Nations General Assembly has voted to recognize the enslavement of Africans during the transatlantic slave trade as the gravest crime against humanity, a move advocates hope will pave the way for healing and justice. Now, first and foremost, those Africans, now this is very important. This is even to that brother in the Afro podcast thing he had. I want you to listen up to this. Enslavement of Africans. Those Africans that were enslaved were not your ancestors. They were my ancestors. So if you guys, our African brothers in West Central Africa, want to help us get this recognized, that's fine. But this atrocity did not happen to you and your ancestors. Y'all got colonized in a different way. Y'all got adversely affected in a different way. But whenever I see transatlantic slave trade, that is not your ancestors. That's my ancestors. Don't you be trying to get a check of reparations or any other form of reparation on our behalf, because y'all made a public apology that kicked off the International Decade for People of African Descent. Y'all made the public apology, and Ghana was consistent with this apology. Ghana was consistent in pushing a resolution of the International Decade for People of African Descent. So I salute Ghana for that. However, now that that program has been extended and progress is being made, right, in all the other nations we've been scattered, don't you try to collect a check that my ancestors bled for me to have today. All the glory from it, because we built it over here, our ancestors. Some of your ancestors enslaved our ancestors and had them sent over here, working in collusion with the Europeans to bring my ancestors over here. These are the Africans that we are talking about. So I want to make sure we keep this in context. All right? The resolution proposed by Ghana called for this designation while also urging UN member states to consider apologizing for the slave trade and contributing to a reparations fund. It does not mention a specific amount of money. The proposal was adopted with 123 votes in favor and 3 against. Guess who? The United States, Israel, and Argentina. They're like, we're not going to apologize for nothing. And you know how they explain it? We can get into it. You know how they explain it? They say, well, if this is the gravest crime against humanity, that's going to belittle other things that happen to other people when it refers to crimes of humanity. We don't think that. And then they said, well, at the time slavery was legal, we don't see that it violated international law. So, yeah, why would we apologize for that when it was legal at the time? Yeah, but you know, it was morally unsound. Just because something's legal doesn't make it right, doesn't make it moral, doesn't make it ethical. But of course, it's going to be the US and Israel, because Israel is sucking off of the nipple of the US. And the US says, no, I'm not going to do that. The other European nations are sovereign enough to stand on their own and say, no, we're going to concede to that. But Israel, getting billions of dollars a year from the US, they're not going to. What you say? Big. Oh, okay. All right. I'm going to do that. And Argentina is under Israel's thumb. Now that's interesting. Let me just posit this. Let's say hypothetically. Let's say if they know that a majority of those Africans were actually Black Jews, that they helped that these nations helped to traffic, because Israel as a state didn't exist when the transatlantic slave trade occurred. They didn't exist, but their ancestors had a hand in the transatlantic slave trade. Their ancestors. So watch this. As long as they keep denying it and keep making excuses, right, they can shy away from identifying us as the descendants of Black Jews. I'm not saying every African American person is a Black Jew. What I'm saying is a lot of the Black Jews are mixed in with us, right? So if you're not directly from that, you add a mixture of that, right? Because the intercontinental slave trade, the breeding posts, etc., right? So I'm saying this. As long as they don't have to acknowledge that those Africans were Jews, because if they acknowledge that any of us were Jews, according to what they subscribe to in the Talmud and the writings from their sages, etc., they would have to pay reparations and damages because it's in the Torah. So they would have to pay for it if they acknowledged that any of those Africans were Jews. Any of them. If there was even 2 of them. And they just so happened, like Suriname, because they was helping to move slaves in Suriname. Let's say that those Jews who had autonomy and had slaves and plantations in Suriname, and they had Jews, they would have to pay reparations according to Torah. That would keep them accountable. But if they deny it, don't want to investigate it, and don't sign off on it, then they're safe. Same thing with the U.S. Because the moment we see that an African American connects themselves in identity in any way, shape, or form to an Israelite, to a Jew, especially publicly, and you are a celebrity, you will be ridiculed. You will be considered anti-Semitic. You would lose your sponsorships. They're going to publicly humiliate you, buck break you. You can say you a Muslim. You can say you a Christian. You can say you a Hindu. You a Buddhist. You a Shintoist. You can say you a Native American. Nobody's going to bother you. The moment that you say you a Jew or that you part of those people, this is how we know the proof is in the pudding. This is how you know they're not going to sign off on that. Let's keep going. 52 countries abstained, including the United Kingdom and European Union member states, meaning that they were neutral. They didn't vote for or against it at all. They just stayed neutral. They still have an alliance with the U.S. and Israel, so they stay neutral, right? But the U.S. and Israel vehemently said no. They voted against it. To me, even if you're a neutral party, you're guilty. Blood still on your hands. As an Israelite, I can't stand by idly while brother's blood is being shed. Idle means you're neutral. There's no neutrality. Let's keep going. Countries like the UK have long rejected calls to pay reparations, saying today's institutions cannot be held responsible for past wrongs. Oh yeah, my ancestors enslaved you, but I shouldn't have to pay for it. Why would I be responsible for paying what my ancestors? I'm not telling you that you have to pay for every sin that your ancestors did. What I'm saying is, if you know that your ancestors adversely affected my ancestors, then you should be empathetic enough to ally with my community, support our endeavors, and ensure that we have equity in this nation that you were a benefactor of because of your ancestors, and your ancestors work off the backs of my ancestors. It's about morality. It's about ethics. It's about the common good of humanity. So the moment I hear you deny that, I can't rock with you. I can't rock with you on that level. I can't rock with you. Unlike UN Security Council resolutions, those from the General Assembly are not legally binding, though they carry the weight of global opinion. Let it be recorded that when history beckoned, we did what was right for the memory of the millions who suffered the indignity of the slave trade and those who continue to suffer racial discrimination. Ghana's President John Mahama told the Assembly ahead of the vote. The adoption of this resolution serves as a safeguard against forgetting. Key thing, make them remember forever. There was even a recent Congress discussion in Tennessee in regards to teaching about slavery as American history, and the founding fathers who owned slaves saying that should be remitted and overlooked because they some of them were abolitionists, and the Constitution was really for us. Well, then you had Black representatives push back and say, well, how dare you say that should be overlooked and remitted? What are you talking about? Constitution, when I was being formed, we were slaves. What? Do you not know the history we had to go through before things got the way it did? Maybe your history only goes as far back as the civil rights. Earlier, his foreign minister, Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, so I'm saying that right, told the BBC's Newsday program, we are demanding compensation, and let us be clear, African leaders are not asking for money for themselves. So hopefully that means that they are looking to assist us over here. But if the sentiments that my brother from the Afro podcast shared earlier this week, I would say the verdict is still out. We're going to see how this plays. All right. We want justice for the victims and causes to be supported. Like I just said, you must ally with us if your ancestors did do us wrong. I ain't going to hold you accountable for their direct sins, but the consequences from those sins that you benefit from off of the expense of my people, you need to ally and assist us with the causes and endeavors that we have. So if y'all want to support the CSRM, more power to you. I would appreciate that. Right? It says, educational, we want justice for the victims and causes to be supported, educational and endowment funds, skills training funds, etc. The campaign for reparations has gained significant momentum in recent years. Reparatory justice was the African Union's official theme for 2025, and Commonwealth leaders have jointly called for dialogue on the matter. Ablakwa also said that with the resolution, Ghana was not ranking its pain above anyone else's, but simply documenting historical fact. Between 1500 and 1800, around 12 to 50 million people were captured in Africa and taken to the Americas, where they were forced to work as slaves. It is estimated that over 2 million people died on the journey. The resolution, backed by the African Union and the Caribbean community, states that the consequences of slavery persist in the form of racial inequalities and underdevelopment, affecting Africans and people of African descent in all parts of the world. Ablakwa told the BBC, many generations continue to suffer the exclusion, the racism because of the transatlantic slave trade, which has left millions separated from the continent and impoverished. The UK, one of the major powers involved in the transatlantic slave trade, said it recognized the untold harm and misery that has been caused to millions of people over the decades. But its ambassador to the UN, James Kariuki, told the assembly in his speech that the resolution was problematic in terms of its wording and international law. No single set of atrocities should be regarded as more or less significant than another. It's the same way with the Black Lives Matter movement. You know, when that movement started in the US, and then people say, well, why just Black lives? Why not all lives matter? You see what they do? They take a cause that we create, that we push. I'm not saying Black Lives Matter was something positive, right, on our behalf. You see what happens to the leaders, swindling money and fraud and all that other stuff, right? What I'm simply saying is the concept. The concept is whenever we endeavor to do something for ourselves, people try to diminish it and then want us to be inclusive. That's why it fails. That's why these things fail. That's why we have to do it ourselves without handouts. Right? We can get allies, but the moment you get a handout from that ally, oh, remember I gave you X amount of money? No. We just want you to support so we can create it ourselves, get the word out, bring the collective together, etc. Right? The U.S. ambassador to the UN made similar points during his speech, saying his country does not recognize a legal right to reparations for historical wrongs that were not illegal under international law at the time they occurred. I.e., we don't give a bleep. We don't give a blup. Sorry, it was legal at the time. We can't be held accountable for something that was legal at the time. And that would explain why the International Decade for African descent, right? When I did that lecture back in 2024, and I've been talking about it for over 10 years. 10 years I've been pushing it. When I learned about it in 2015, when I learned about it, pushed it for 10 years, right? And in 2016, there was a sect of individuals that's over the African descent people's group came to investigate the U.S. in 2016. U.S. says, oh, yeah, we're taking care of all the xenophobia, the discrimination, the disparity between the Black community and other ethnic communities. And we're taking care of all of that. Yeah, we got a justice system here and everything else like that. Pretty much saying we're not about to implement nothing. We don't care what the resolutions say. You can't make us do nothing. We already got something in place. Yeah, but what you got in place is weak and it's not working. It's not. Other ethnic groups are benefiting more than my ethnic group. But the sentiment is shared. We don't care. No harm, no foul. We wasn't responsible for it. Then it says, in addition, Dan Negria said the U.S. objected to the cynical usage of historical wrongs as a leverage point to reallocate modern resources to people and nations who are distantly related to historical victims. You see that? Ghana, one of the main getaways for the transatlantic slave trade, has long been a leading advocate for reparations. Forts where tens of thousands of enslaved Africans were once held under inhumane conditions remain standing along the West African country's coast. As well as the legal problems around reparations, the U.S. ambassador said the resolution was unclear as to whom the recipients of reparatory justice will be. Well, don't y'all do DNA tests? And if we have a 51% or greater in regards to African descent and affinity to other haplogroups, similar haplogroups over in Western Central Africa, that will deem us African enough to receive reparations. Don't you have records of these things as well? You can see where our ancestors were on which plantations. And we can look at the timeline as well. Shout out to slavevoyages.org, the Emory University wing of contributing to this information that we have on these slave voyages and these slave ships. They have a record there. We also have journals that's archived in the Library of Congress of slave plantation owners requesting which slaves that they needed for the plantation that they had based on the skill set of the artisans, the cultivators, etc., that were in different parts of Africa and the Western Central. This is not a mystery anymore. We have more than enough documentation and DNA data for you to determine who should be the recipients of benefits. But like I told y'all all the time, our people, they're not going to give us anything. They're not looking to give us anything. That would bankrupt this nation. They'd rather give billions of dollars to Israel. They'd rather give $1 billion to the war in Russia. They'd rather give billions of dollars to other causes and efforts, but they'll vote down the atrocities that they played the greatest role in when it comes to our people. Yet they'll point fingers at Hitler and what he did to the Jewish people. When it comes to what y'all did to my people, okay. All right. All right. I'm going to stop right there, man. I'm going to stop right there. All right. It's crazy. Crazy work. Crazy work. All right, y'all. So with that being said, let's get into the Q&A. Got about 30 minutes for that. Let me go ahead and scroll up, give our shout out. Shout out to Hakodesh Management in the building. Shalom. Jaslyn Berry. Shalom. Brother Ash. Shalom. Yashar. Yahweh. Shalom. Faithist Man. Yahoo Savage. Shalom. TX Mando. Whooping Feet in the building. Shalom. Joseph Wayman. Shalom. Nazarene of the Way. Shalom. Kisrael 4435, Shalom. Comp City Gaming, Shalom. Jasmine Ross, Shalom. Judean J, Shalom. Kirubel, Shalom. Von Eric, where's your faith? Shalom. Kazachia Yasharal, Shalom. Daywalker 7, Shalom. Morris Green, Shalom. Let me see. Are we still getting the calendar? I'm not sure. That remains to be seen. I'm not sure. We're going to move towards the physical calendars. So we're in that transition phase, but probably not a digital one anymore. We're trying to transition to the physical. So that way we just put out the dates and you just arrange it on a physical calendar going forward. Right. So, shout out to You Love Yah 222. Shalom. Andre Waverer. Shalom. Yes, sir. It's been a minute. Thank you for joining us, my brother. G Jones 702, Shalom. NHIT, Nazarene Hebrew Institute, Shalom. Israel Doctrine in the building. One of the earliest videos I did on this channel is with Israel Doctrine. Shalom. What's going on, brother? Long time no speak. Asantawa Herbs in the building. BK in the building. Shalom. What's going on, sis? Peace be still. Shalom. Chris Mathis. Shalom. Gavin Miller. Shalom. 3, hello, shalom. Let me see. Yeah. I'm down to build with Vin. That's a good brother. Good people's right there. I seen that video as well. Good people's right there. King Nazareth, shalom. King Nazareth, that's a good point, but that's the minority. That's not the majority, brother. But I see what you're saying. Shout out to Vital Empress. I'm here in the UK. We still paying our taxes, reparations to the slave owners who lost. You know, reparations was paid to the South too, right? When they lost their economic foundation after the Emancipation Proclamation. You know they would pay reparations, right? We were promised 40 acres and a mule. They didn't get anything. They started the process. It looked good. Took it back. Slave owners got reparations, and the U.S. don't say nothing about that. I don't see them saying nothing about that. That we shouldn't have given them. No, they're okay with that because they're the benefactors. Anyway, let me see. Facts. Shout out to Raphael in the building. Shalom. Yeah, real talk. Shout out to Inspirational Insights. Shalom. Shout out to my brother Kwaku RBG Hebrew salute. We in the building. We ain't going nowhere. We ain't pushed the moniker in a while, but we ain't going nowhere. I think on the last session I did, or session before that, I wore my RBG necklace. So all praise. Let's see. Let me get the shout outs. Yakez, shalom. Kodak and Vegas, shalom. AJ Bethea, shalom. Let me see. Is that everybody? All right. If you want to shout out, hit one. If you want to shout out, hit one. Over here on TikTok. I think I could see people here. I think somebody told me I can click here and see. Yeah, it's a couple people over here. Shout out to AJ Bethea. You on TikTok too, brother? You on both? All praises. Shout out to Emmett Till, Asante, you over here as well. All praises. Grits and Gravy, shalom. Word v Sword. Let me see. Word versus World TV. It's my brother on TikTok. Shalom, Albert. Shalom, the Cut Boss. Shalom, King Josiah. Shalom, Nahalabad. Shalom, Elizabeth Graham. Shalom, peace, Jasmine. Shalom, peace. I bring light. Shalom, peace. Adidio. Shalom, peace. Nick New. Hey, if y'all got these names that's like multiple words, but it's condensed in no spaces, it takes me some time to read it, and I want to read it well. So I may look a little remedial doing it, but it's because I'm trying to make out what's being said and say it the proper way. Yeah, right now. All right. So we gave the shout outs. Shout out to BA Abad in the building. Email me, brother. Email me, kingdomharbinger@gmail.com, because it can't just come directly to me, but all requests has to be logged and accounted for in some medium in KHM. So if you email us, it's the best way to take those requests and document it, and then send out and approve and honor the request that's being sent to us. All right. Also, as far as the feast days, if anybody wants to do feast days, but your job is giving you a hard time, if you need a religious accommodation letter, we got you. Email us at kingdomharbinger@gmail.com. So if you're trying to take off a set apart day, feast day this year, and your job is giving you heat, email us at kingdomharbinger@gmail.com. We got you. All right. And remember, when COVID hit, was on the front line, helped over 150 plus people save their jobs simply through religious exemption letters. If you need a religious exemption as well, let's say you don't want to take the COVID shot, the flu shot, or whatever the case may be, because of religious reasons, email us at kingdomharbinger@gmail.com, and we will help honor that for you and give you the might of the Most High behind your requests to your employer. All praise. Shout out to Jace Fierceton in the building. Shalom, shalom. I'm good as I can be. We all face challenges and struggles and so forth, but I continue to push through it, keep a smile on my face, and speak to the people of Yah. All praises. All right. Daywalker. Brother, was it you that emailed me about this? If it was, click the link in the description below, set up a consultation session, and let's talk about it, because I want to give you everything you need. And that's one of the things that people say, hey, what's one of the first books that I should be reading as it pertains to the paradigm shared on Kingdom Harbinger Ministries? you have to learn about customs, mannerisms, and culture. You have to understand these things. The material covenant hermeneutic is also something I constructed from my dissertation, my doctoral dissertation, and I turned that into a full-on monograph, right? That I've completed, but I'm revising now, right? And in there, when you read that, it'll tell you exactly how to orient yourself properly. So unless you know about the culture, the customs, the manners, the land, the socio-economic, political environment, matrix in which the peoples live, their need and dependency on a patron deity, etc. What they did day to day in their life, their daily operations, how they made food, how they traveled. Unless you understand these things, the threats, the dangers that was imposed upon them, that they were concerned about, droughts and famines. Y'all living good in America. A lot of y'all not, and not just America, in the West too, in the UK, etc. Y'all ain't worrying about a lot of this. But because of those concerns, they had a dependency on either a king to do all of that for them or a deity. So the struggle of actual lived lives of people that we read about in scripture, because a lot of times we gloss over that real people actually lived, and those lived experiences intertwined with Yah is what made it to the pages of the text. But there was real people behind it. And unless you are able to empathize with their daily operations, their way of life, then you have missed over 90% of scripture. So the Cultural Background Study Bible is one thing I always recommend, extremely helpful. Customs and Manners, there's about biblical customs and manners, is about 4 or 5 different books like that. You got to read all of them. And then from there, there's other books as well that I've shared on here plenty of times, but you can get that on the Patreon as well. Go on to Patreon, type in culture, customs, manners, and you'll see a variety of sources that talk about this. But in my particular paper, right, I kind of summarize all of that, because it's the way that I see that seminaries need to teach systematic theology. And it's a paradigm shift. My paper was a paradigm shift designed to do just that. Now, whether or not successful or not is another thing, but I put it out there for consideration. Okay. All right. It definitely is, Daywalker. Definitely is. And that's why I go into hospitality and stuff like that. So you'll definitely know. All right. All right, so let me see. So the questions are coming in. I see several questions up here. Shout out to Mr. Shemzi in the building. Shalom King, I see you. Let me see. Okay. Okay, got it. So Shalom Divine. People say because Daniel fasted on Passover while in exile means that if you believe you're eating the Passover lamb while in exile, it's a sin. What say you? Excellent question. A lot of Jewish communities subscribe to the same thing, hence why they don't eat the Passover lamb as a memorial for Passover. What I would say is we'd have to dive into the text. I've heard that before, but I like to do a proper exegesis of the passages that's used to support that finding and discovery and application. So, Yachez, if you can share those passages from how you heard about this, share it in here and we can definitely go through it. Okay. All right. Let's see. Let me see. Can you talk about the kingdom of heaven extended for Israel? How does that contrast from modern dispensationalism? Okay. Modern dispensationalism is based on the dispensation of time in which man is judged based on some particular theme. For example, governance. We're seeing in Genesis chapter 11. Governance, human governance, was a dispensation of time that man was given to get it right. But what does man do? He comes together, builds a Tower of Babel, and says they want to make a name for themselves all the way up into heaven. They were judged, they were scattered, spoke different languages. That was the end of that dispensation, right? Then that dispensation of innocence in which Adam and Eve lived in the garden with no issue, no worries, no concerns. They was given one commandment. They broke it, disobeyed it. They broke the covenant. And that dispensation of time ceased and ended in a transition into another dispensation of time. Same thing with the Mosaic law, a covenant made in the wilderness with Israel, giving the Israelites an opportunity through the law to obtain righteousness before the Most High Yah by keeping the statutes, laws, and commandments, as we see in Deuteronomy chapter 5, verse 33. And they broke that covenant, as we see in Jeremiah chapter 31, Ezekiel chapter 11, Ezekiel chapter 36, etc. So therefore, a new dispensation had to be established. That is oversimplifying dispensationalism, but that is the primary gist of what it is, right? The kingdom of heaven is different. The kingdom of heaven has always been a thing. Yeshua Bar Yosef, or Jesus Hamashiach, or people call him Jesus Christ, when he came on the scene preaching the kingdom of heaven, that was an inheritance for Israel. To have the governance of Yah amongst the presence of the people. Yah always did it through an intermediary, always did it through an agent, but to have the actual presence physically here on earth is the kingdom of heaven that was near, that Yeshua spoke about. This is not a dispensation of time. This kingdom has always been here. The difference is now it's going to meet and touch earth. It has never done that before. The closest we had to that is the Garden of Eden. That was the closest. That was where heaven and earth met. And then Eden, placed away. The only way you would know you get to Eden, people can tell you, oh, there's Eden here. Eden is here on earth. People say Eden is in Africa. Eden is over here. Eden is over there. How will we know if we found the Garden of Eden? I'm going to show you how we would know that. Let me show it to you. I'm going to show you how we would know that. You're going to have to see something in particular. Let me show you that. Oh, cancel the share. It's crazy work. Boom. All right. How will we know that? Let me zoom in to make this bigger. The text says, then the Lord God said, behold, the man has become like one of us in knowing good and evil. Now, lest he reach out his hand and take also of the tree of life and eat and live forever. Verse 23, therefore the Lord God sent him out from the Garden of Eden to work the ground from which he was taken, meaning that Adam was not taken from the alluvial soil in the garden. The garden was created as a gift for man to keep, but he was taken out of the earth outside of Eden. Verse 24, he drove out the man, and at the east of the Garden of Eden, he placed, that's where the entrance is at, and the exit, he placed the cherubim and a flaming sword that turned every way to guard the way to the tree of life. So if he was to stumble upon the Garden of Eden, and the only entrance to it is through the east, and you don't see that cherubim there, then you're not dealing with the actual biblical Garden of Eden. Okay. I think that should be pretty apparent, but okay. All right. I guess for some people it needs additional clarification. All right. Okay, Daniel chapter 10, verse 2-3. All right, let's take a look at that. All right, let me share. Okay, start at verse 1. In the third year of Cyrus, king of Persia, a word was revealed to Daniel, Daniel, who was named Belteshazzar. And the word was true, and it was a great conflict. And he understood the word and had understanding of the vision. Verse 2, in those days, I, Daniel, was mourning for 3 weeks. I ate no delicacies, no meat or wine entered my mouth, nor did I anoint myself at all for the full 3 weeks. On the 24th day of the first month, 24th day of the first month. So if you did it 3 weeks, that would have went into Nisan 1 and Nisan 14, right? As I was standing on the bank of the great river, that is the Tigris, I lifted up my eyes and looked, and behold, a man clothed in linen with a belt of fine gold from Uphaz around his waist. Now, here's the thing. Why did Daniel mourn for 3 weeks and fast? Was it because, oh, the Passover's coming, so I don't eat the Passover lamb, so this is what I got to do? No. It's because of the visions that he's been given and him trying to figure out. It stressed him out. It says it right there in verse 1. If people use this for justification to fast around Passover and why we can't eat no meat and no delicacies and no wine, they're taking this out of context. Clearly out of context. That's why you got to read it in context. So that verse 1. This is the reason for him doing it. Now, would he have been violating the Passover if he's fasting in exile? No. If you're in the land, it's fully required. If you're in exile, you're doing it as a memorial. You can't do it according to the commandment entirely, because the post-exilic interpolation says that it can only be done in a place where he chooses to place his name. If Daniel was living in that post-exilic period, and this was the understanding, that he knew that he could fast for a situation like this. Now, again, this is only one time. Nobody's saying he did this every year annually. Didn't say that. This was a one-time situation. This one time. The text never says that he didn't keep Passover. Didn't say he did keep it. Didn't say he didn't keep it. So to push that on Passover is very interesting, right? But here, when they say no meat, this is why they don't eat meat, because this is what a lot of Jewish communities use. But there's an overall context. He's mourning. See, let me say this to you again, right? Just so you can understand. In that first month of Nisan, which should be called Aviv, if you don't keep Passover, for whatever reason, you could be defiled, you could be unclean, you could be mourning, because if somebody died, you can mourn. You got the period of mourning. If a woman is on her cycle, and no, not even, let's take that away. If a woman had a child, she had a child, and we can say women on cycle too, they would have to be kept from Passover, right? But if a woman had a child, there has to be a period of purification. Well, you can keep Passover the next month. This is what we find on Numbers chapter 9. Let's go to Numbers chapter 9. So if he fasted in Nisan 14 on until the 24th, let's say he fasted for those days, he can keep Passover in the second month. There's an allowance for that. How come that's not part of the consideration? I wonder. Let's read it. And Yah spoke to Moshe in the wilderness of Sinai in the first month of the second year after they had come out of the land of Egypt, saying, let the people of Israel keep the Passover at its appointed time on the 14th day of this month. At twilight, you shall keep it at its appointed time. According to all its statutes and all its rules, you shall keep it. Now remember, if they're supposed to keep it, they're in the wilderness in Sinai. They're being told to keep this according to all the statutes and all its rules, you shall keep it. So if the text says in a place where he chooses to place his name, and y'all saying that's Jerusalem, then what's going on in Numbers chapter 9? Are they making Leah to Jerusalem at this point and coming back into the wilderness? No. Because it's a memorial from this point forward. It's a memorial. Let's keep going. So Moses told the people of Israel that they should keep the Passover, and they kept the Passover in the first month on the 14th day of the month at twilight in the wilderness at Sinai. That's what the text says. I didn't write that. According to all that the Lord commanded Moses, so the people of Israel did. That's why I'm telling you, the commandment for Passover, these statutes, is Exodus 12. What you get in Devarim and Deuteronomy is post-exilic interpolation. We went over this before. It's the priestly P and it's the redactors adding stuff. But that's a whole nother conversation, right? So I just want to make sure you understand this, right? Verse 6, and there were certain men who were unclean through touching a dead body, so that they could not keep the Passover on that day. And they came before Moses and Aaron on that day. And those men said to him, we are unclean through touching a dead body. Why are we kept from bringing Yah's offering at its appointed time among the people of Israel. And Moses said to them, wait that I may hear what Yah will command concerning you. Yah spoke to Moses, saying, speak to the people of Israel, saying, if any one of you, your descendants, is unclean, touching a dead body, or is on a long journey, he shall still keep the Passover to the Lord. In the second month of the 14th day of twilight, they shall keep it. They shall eat it with unleavened bread and with bitter herbs. Do you see that? So if you're unable to keep it in Nisan 14, you can do it in the following month. Who's to say that that's not what he did? Context matters. It does. I know some people don't think it does, but context does matter. Okay. All right. Let me see. Yeah, and that's because certain things were not fulfilled. Yo, CJ, it's crazy because Yem Yahoo, the brother Jeremy Cade, asked me a similar question. Y'all really want that? Should I really do a lecture on that? Y'all give me some homework to work on. I'll put something light together for y'all. I'll put something light together. And you said verse 4 was the point. All right, let's go to verse 4. I think we covered that, but okay, let's go to verse 4. On the 24th day of the first month, as I was standing on the bank of the great river, that is the Tigris. Yeah, I read all of that. So it's inclusive of verse 4 too. What I said, it still stands. Verse 4 doesn't do anything to it. It's that's important. Shout out to IMJ Showtime Shalom. What's your stance on the brother saying you can have concubines present day? I don't know who is saying that present day. If brother says there's justification for that, I don't know. That actually went out of usage by the 1st century. However, polygyny didn't. So you can have multiple wives, but the concubinage was different because concubinage, you don't have the same legal rights as a wife does. Concubinage is there because both parties agree just to get it on and that's it, right? And also, the text says, do not make whores out of the daughters of Zion. So if you doing concubinage with other sisters, are you whoring them out? Now, some people say, oh, we could do it with other nations. Yeah, but what is the purpose of concubinage in 2026? Now, polygyny is different, right? Because polygyny is where you allocate resources within that family unit. The household, if there's multiple children and responsibilities, gets managed and the weight is alleviated from one parent to another that's helping to co-parent, right? And now you can continue to build wealth within that economy in the home, bring order and execute things that are brought forth within that home, and to oversee matters that is not conducive to a much smaller household. And there's legal rights for both, right? So that's what was intended of polygyny. And in ancient times, every man was not polygynous. Most marriages were monogamous, but there was polygynous marriages based on what could be afforded by the man. And number two, because the man was going to have to pay a dowry to the second wife's father, which was pretty pricey, but he had to pay a dowry to both parents of both spouses. And then also there was a bunch of children. So when you have like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. If you have all these kids, it's very difficult for two parents to parent both those kids. Some people have the benefit of having extended family coming to help, like a grandparent, an aunt, uncle, cousin, or whatever, but some people don't. But they can build up within the home the cross management responsibilities of that home, because there's a lot to manage across various spouses. The concubinage is not based on a covenant within a family. That is a temporary situation. So why would a man today desire concubines? Why would that be a desire to have multiple women you're just laying out with and then not making no commitment to, and they're not committing to you? Like, what is the benefit of that? Right? So brothers can say that in times past, concubinage was mostly for people who can afford to do that. at the time. And a lot of times they were already married and they added the concubines, mainly for like people of superior cloths, like kings, magistrates, dignitaries, etc. The common man, very little had concubines, let alone a second, third, or fourth wife. Islam, they allow you up to 4 wives, 3 or 4 wives. Typically in Israel was mainly 2 wives. But concubinage is really something that's reserved for the upper echelon of society. So common people, which most of us in this community is and watching this YouTube is, there's no need for that. You gotta explain what's the business case for having concubinage. Why am I doing that? Everything that is lawful is not expedient. You have to have justification for that. So that's my personal perspective in regards to having concubinage that typically occurred within the nation of Israel at that time. Being exiled, I don't see anything where there's an allowance for concubinage, because if most of the concubinage that they had were mainly foreign women. So, and that's because those foreign women really did not have any rights coming into the land of Israel. Through marriage, as we see in Deuteronomy 21, or through concubinage, that may have helped their status to a certain extent. More so marriage and concubinage, but it would be, what is the business case? The reason that they had is because they were kings. Kings were able to do that. A lot of times those concubines or those wives were given to kings by other nations, and that was a treaty, right? Whether it's a concubine was given as a gift from one nation to another, or the wife was a treaty. That's why those occurred with kings. But for common folk, it was not common at all. So I don't understand why you would need that. Why not marry that woman? Why not commit and be accountable to that woman, right? Instead of just laying with her. And if you lay with concubines and they have children, then what? Now you got to go through the court system because you have no legal covenant with that individual, right? So I don't see concubinage according to the biblical application of it when kings are doing that. There's no Israelite kings right now in our community. There's none. All right. Let's see what else is there. So hopefully I answered your question, my brother. Let me see. Mr. Jeshuan, in regard to Isaiah 64, 10 to 12. Let's go there real quick. Isaiah 64. Okay. And it says, your holy cities have become so just so we see the context of it. The context in regards to this is going to start in Isaiah chapter 63, and it starts at prayer for mercy because of what's going to occur at the beginning of the chapter, which is talking about vengeance, and this vengeance come upon Edom and other groups, right? The Lord's mercy remembered. This is in Isaiah 63, starting at verse 7. And starting at verse 15 is a prayer for mercy. Look down from heaven and see from your holy and beautiful habitation. Where are your zeal and your might? The stirring of your inner parts and your compassion are held back from me. For you are our Father. Isaiah 63 and 16, where Isaiah calls Yahweh Father, or Yotewave Father. For you are our Father, though Abraham does not know us and Israel does not acknowledge us. You, O Yah, are our Father. Our Redeemer from of old is your name. Oh, Yah, why do you make us wander from your ways and harden our heart so that we fear you not? Return for the sake of your servants, the tribes of your heritage. Your holy people held position for a little while. Our adversaries have trampled down your sanctuary. We have become like those over whom you have never ruled, like those who are not called by your name. Then it goes into verse 64 as a continuation of this. Oh, that you would rend the heavens and come down, that the mountains might quake at your presence, as when fire kindles brushwood and the fire causes water to boil, to make your name known to your adversaries, and that the nations might tremble at your presence. So we're going to continue on to verse 10 and 12. Listen to what the context is, right? So jumping down there, starting at verse 8, but now, Yah, you are our Father. Again, calling Yah the Father. We are the clay, and you are our potter. We are all the work of your hand. Be not so terribly angry, O Yah, and remember not iniquity forever. Behold, please look, we are all your people. Your holy cities have become a wilderness. Zion has become a wilderness, Jerusalem a desolation. Our holy and beautiful house, where our fathers praise you, has been burned by fire, and all our pleasant places have become ruins. This is present tense, because this is referring to the siege of Babylon. So this was occurring in smaller situations, factions at Israel presently, and then also because it's written in retrospect, is referring to the siege that's happening based on Babylon progressing and moving towards Jerusalem to take the capital of Israel, right? Because the north was already taken by the Assyrians and Samaria. Now this is what's going to happen to them. So they felt like Yah has abandoned him. Where are you at, Yah? Remember, the context is Isaiah 63, prayer for mercy, because this is happening to Zion currently, during that time, and in retrospect. So this has nothing to do with future tense now or in the future with us in 2026. This has already been fulfilled at that time. So the context dictates the prayer was for mercy because of what was happening to them at that time. All right. We see something similar in the book of Lamentations as well. Right. Jeremiah says something very similar as well. Right. Because he actually was in captivity with the rest of Israel. Okay. Let me see. You're not gonna let me live that down, Daywalker. All praises, brother. All praises. I got you, King. I know exactly what you're talking about, brother. All right, let me see. Let me see. All right, I'll take one more question and then I have to go. One more question and then I have to go. Let me see. All right, let me tackle this then. Let me tackle this. I'm gonna tackle this and then I'm gonna go. Okay, family. I gotta tackle this and then I'm going to go. All right, and I went over this before on this channel. I even had a discussion with a brother that told me that Caleb was not an Israelite. Right? Okay. If Caleb was not an Israelite, he would be violating Torah because the families of Judah are putting a foreign ruler over them. Let's get into that real quick. Let me pull the text back up. Let's get it up real quick. Ephraim ben Yosef said the Shashu of Yahweh. Yeah, those are proto-Israelites. Most of them, not all of them. They also consisted of Edomites, Midianites, and Ammonites in that region. All right. So Devarim chapter 17 and verse 15. Okay, Devarim 17 and 15. You may indeed set a king over you, whom Yah your power will choose, one from among your brothers. You shall set a king over you. You may not put a foreigner over you who is not your brother. Hold on, let me share this. I don't know if it's sharing. You see that? You may not put a foreigner over you who is not your brother. So when we get to Numbers chapter 13, and we read, then Yah spoke to Moses, saying, send men to spy out the land of Canaan, which I am giving the people of Israel, from each tribe of their fathers. That's the key word. Tribe of their fathers, like we see in Numbers chapter 1 in regards to lineage based on land owning, right? Listen to what we said. You can't put a foreigner over you. And then the text says, from each tribe of their fathers, you shall send a man, everyone a chief among them. So now when we get down to Caleb, this verse 5, from the tribe of Shimeon, Shaphat, the son of Hori, from the tribe of Judah, Caleb, the son of Yefune. Caleb is from the tribe of Judah. It says, everyone a chief among you, each from the tribes of their fathers. That means the fathers on Caleb's father's side were Judites. They had to be. Otherwise, Moses couldn't send them out. This is very rudimentary, but it's very obvious in the text. It's very obvious in the text. Yeah, Mr. Joshua, no problem, brother. I've seen that used for that too. Shout out to Big Chief Prince Vision in the building. What's going on, King? And MDNA 4654. All right. And Yahad Ben Yisrael. Shalom. So that is very, just from looking at this alone, people say, oh yeah, there's a Caleb mentioned here about this. I said, there's more than one Caleb. Let me show it to you. This is, like I said, this is rudimentary stuff. There's more than one Caleb. Just like there's more than one Enoch. Cain had a son called Enoch too, right? That Seth also had a son called Enoch. Are they the same Enoch? Of course not. If they was, then Enoch would have died in the flood. All right, so let's read Numbers chapter 13, verse 5. I'm gonna take you here. Hold on, verse 5, verse 6. We go to Caleb, and we'll get to see Caleb, the name of 3 Israelites. See that? Numbers 13 and 6, 13 and 30 that I used. Numbers 14 and 6, 14, 24, 14, 30, 14, 38, Numbers 26 and 25. And again, Caleb, the son of who? Jephunneh, right? Caleb of Judah, Caleb, the son of. That's Numbers 34, 19. Deuteronomy 136, Joshua 14 and 6. Joshua 14, 13. All throughout Joshua, that's the same Caleb. Then you get to Judges. Actually, let's go here. Let me go here. This will probably be better in summarizing for you right here. Identity and genealogical context. Caleb appears in 2 distinct family lines. Caleb, son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzite, who is adopted into the tribe of Judah. Now, when they say this, I have an issue with that. This is a theological bias, because what they want to show is that, as a foreigner, you could be grafted in, and therefore, no. According to Torah, you cannot have a foreigner rule over you. It simply said you can't have a foreigner rule over you. So why would Moses go? Mind you, Moses is going to the heads, the chiefs of these lineages, and he's picking them out. So you're saying Moses, who had the spirit on him, who knew Yah as a friend, and Yah called a friend, is going and picking a foreigner to represent Judah, when the Most High said, get the chief from his fathers through his tribal lineage? No. Here's the other one. Caleb, son of Hezron, within the natural Judite genealogy, 1 Chronicles 2:18. Both lines anchor the name in Judah. Both scriptures sharply distinguishes the adventurous spy, son of Unah, from the clan father recorded from the chroniclers. That's what they're saying. So how do you deal with this conundrum? Stay tuned for our next Freestyle Friday session. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave you with it to say, in Numbers chapter 13, the Caleb we see in Numbers 13 that we see in Joshua and Judges, that is the Caleb who is a Judite by blood, from his father's lineage. From his father's lineage. It didn't say through his mother's lineage, through his father's lineage. But when you want the text to show adoption, when it doesn't need to show it, when there's other things that can convey that, it's a theological bias. And I can go into that particular source I just read from and why it's showing a bias. Caleb is an Israelite. Or I'll say past tense, because he's not here anymore. Caleb was an Israelite. There's no way around that. Okay. All right, family. Let me close out. It's getting late. Past my time. Hopefully you enjoyed this session. For those who supported, thank you once for supporting. Again, sign up for KHM membership. Click the link in the description below. Sign up for our Patreon, www.patreon.com/Divine Prospect, and subscribe there. Look at our 1,300 plus posts. You get languages, right? We have Arabic, Aramaic. We have Greek. We have Hebrew. We have Ugaritic. We have various languages that you can learn simply from sign up for the Patreon. Post for that. We have books, we have articles, I have my academic papers, academic blogs. We have paid websites you can get access to. We have any of our services, our digital services and programs. You get it either for free, a discount, or otherwise. Tons of stuff on there. We had 910 patrons now. All praise to the Most High. We're on the road to 1,000 patrons. So please, if you have not signed up for the Patreon, sign up for the Patreon and see why it is popping. And also, we have an after hours. That means when the cameras go off, after hours chat that's going on 24/7, 365. It is the after party. If your questions did not get answered here, ask them over on Patreon. Also, if anybody here needs a religious accommodation letter for taking Passover off and the day of unleavened bread and the week of unleavened bread, email us at kingdomharbinger@gmail.com so you can keep the Yah appointed feast. Anybody also as well needs an exemption from inoculations and vaccines for work or for university, email us at kingdomharbinger@gmail.com. We're more than happy to assist you with that. If there's anything that we can do better to serve you as a community, email us at kingdomharbinger@gmail.com. We will hold you down. If you're watching this on YouTube, I want you to sign up on TikTok and add me on TikTok and follow us for our KHM TikTok Biblical War Room sessions, which are open panel discussions, and we go into the thick of things. All right. If you're on TikTok, go over here to YouTube. Subscribe to us on YouTube at Kingdom Harbinger Ministries so you can go into the archive of content if you're enjoying what you're watching here on TikTok, which is a sample of some of the stuff that we go into on the YouTube channel. All right, family. So I want to say enjoy your Shabbat coming up, those who are keeping it this evening and tomorrow. We at KHM keep it from sunrise to sunset on Saturday. However you keep it, I'm honored that you are willing to submit to the Father and keep what he has appointed for Israel to show us as a set-apart people in the midst of heathens and other people groups that care not about his statute, laws, and commandments. You're walking 10 toes down, upright, and you are willing to give his name fame. That is what he cares about, the fame in his name. That's why you cannot lift up or carry his name, his reputation in vain. Not goddamn, not Jesus Christ. That is not violating any commandments in the Decalogue. This is why when you come here, we give you the proper exegesis on how to break that down and what that actually means within the cultural, historic, and linguistic point of view of the author to its immediate audience. All right. Okay. All right. Much love, family. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Share this video with others that can be blessed by it. And again, if we could do anything to serve you better, let us know. And if you have any questions or anything like that, email us at kingdomharbinger@gmail.com. Also, if you want a one-on-one session with me, that's free. Click the link in the description below, and I will set that time aside to speak with you, counsel you, advise you, or build with you. You let me know what you want to do. All right. Now, if you want more extended sessions, there's paid sessions for that, but the initial ones is all free consultations. All right. And if any of you have any services that's going on. Oh, let me say this real quick. Also, this July, Great Awakening Assembly, they are having another event very similar to the one that happened in 2019. I've been invited out to that. I will be doing a speaking session. So I will be in Detroit this July, Yah willing. All right. So I just want to let y'all know that. Also, services. I have plenty of services that we offer. Let me show you this last thing. I'll share it on both sides. This is for TikTok to see. And YouTube should already be familiar with this. All right. So if you have any life events and you need somebody to moderate, you need somebody to officiate, and you need somebody to host or carry it out, email me, divineprospectkhm@gmail.com. All right. I do speaking engagement, your topic of choice. Abrit Milah, we do those, the circumcision ceremonies, counselings, weddings, coming of age ceremonies with some called bat mitzvah or bar mitzvah, immersions, tevilah, we do feast days. I can officiate for you, and funerals. I have examples of all of this on this YouTube channel, so you can go and check those out. And if you need any of these services, email me at divineprospectkhm@gmail.com. Or give us a call at 678-430-3832. And we are here at your service. Okay. All praises. Love you, family. Thank you for watching. See you on the next live stream. Peace and shalom. Shalom, shalom.